Multiculturalism has been an experiment and it's been a huge failure.
Oh, it really has.
And now we hire people now based on sexuality, on ethnicity, on colour and all sorts of things, and it's the wrong thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
Someone like you're registered disabled.
Yes.
You shouldn't get a postal vote either. Well, you're right, we've got people in jail doing years in jail for tweeting stuff.
Yeah, see, that boils my piss, I'll be honest with you.
We always think that we're scared of the government. We need to start remembering the government are scared of us. Yeah, we just need to be honest and say, we're better than the Europeans.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blind Truth podcast. And today we are joined by Nick Buckley, MBE, no less, who is a slightly controversial figure within a political figure, would you say?
Yes, I'm only controversial because I tend to tell the truth. Hence
the Blind Truth
yes.
podcast, which is why we were desperate to get you on, and we were. So thank you very much for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about as much as you want to tell us about where you're from, where you grew up, that kind of thing, what you did. How did you get your MBE would be one of my questions, but go on, fire away. Tell us about Nick.
Yeah, sure. I'm just a Manchester kid, raised on a council estate in South Manchester, single parent household, no father, didn't know my father, he died when I was still a child.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
Went to a failing school. My school was that bad that one of my teachers got stabbed 42 times in the chest by a pupil.
Okay.
For confiscating a pornographic magazine off him. And then I drifted through my teens and my early 20s, didn't know what I wanted in life, did a lot of travelling around the world.
Right.
And then when I was in my 30s, I fell into a job at Manchester Council. And that changed my life.
Right.
Not because the council's any good, because all in councils are incompetent, but it showed me different career paths and it gave me a purpose in life.
Okay.
And it also showed me something I was good at. And what I was good at was working with young people and stopping them getting involved in crime. And I was good at that because I was one of those kids when I was growing up. I was always on the edges of doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Some of my friends went to prison, some of them died early. And I knew when I was hearing BS off young people, and I would pull them up on that, saying, I'm not having any of this, mate.
You can see through it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So could I just ask, the school where the teacher was stabbed, I remember when I was growing up, when I was at school, there was a big hoo-ha about, was it Spurley Hay by any chance?
No, it's next to Spurley. It was called Central High School for Boys in Bellevue. It was
in the same block, was it the same building? Because I remember the headmaster confiscating some pornography off somebody and getting beaten up or stabbed or shot or something on Mount Road. Yeah,
I know where Spurley is,
yeah.
But no, it was a school about a mile down the road from there.
Right.
It would have been about 1983.
Right, so I was 17, so it's just before. I'm slightly older than you, I take it then.
Yeah, so it would have been then.
Right.
And so working for the council, I ended up getting involved in crime and disorder. I ended up running Manchester City Centre in terms of reducing crime and antisocial behaviour. I was based in the old Bootle Street police station.
Yeah.
Then redundancies came in 2011 because of austerity. I took redundancy and used my payout to set a charity up to carry on working on the streets and stopping kids getting involved in crime.
Right.
That's what I got an MBE for.
Well done.
And then I became famous or infamous then for criticising Black Lives Matter in 2020.
Right. Are you okay to go over that?
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened?
I wrote a blog about Black Lives Matter, explaining how they were Marxists and how basically they were lunatics.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to improve black lives in this country, I gave lots of ideas of how we do that. Obviously, in 2020, you couldn't talk about Black Lives Matter in a negative way. No. So I was called a Nazi, a racist, a fascist.
Yeah. This is the problem, isn't it?
The board of the charity that I founded, that I set up, I appointed the board. The board sacked me over email.
What?
Yeah, they sacked me for...
The board that you appointed sacked you?
Yeah.
Because you said something that didn't agree with the narrative of the day?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So then that got international press attention. I fought the board back. I joined the Free Speech Union, who were fantastic. And together over 5 weeks, we forced the board to resign in disgrace.
Right.
I appointed a new board and they offered me my job back.
And did you take it?
I took it for a year, but the damage to my reputation had been done then.
Yeah.
Funders, councils, grant makers were going, we can't fund Mancunian Way anymore now because it's run by Hitler. So I ended up leaving after a year. The charity, I didn't want to damage the charity, you know, it's my baby. I set it up. It's everything that I invested into that. It's still doing amazing. I'm just not involved anymore.
Really? Well, that's such a shame though, isn't it? You know, you put your neck on the block, so to speak, didn't you, by daring to speak the truth?
Yep. And I have no regrets.
No.
Because I've never intended to live my life as a coward. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Good on you. I've heard that somewhere before, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that. I stole that.
Oh, no, I've heard it, yeah, in the military. Yeah.
And then I got involved in politics because that's how we change this country. This country is dying. It's been dying all my life. And
I totally agree with you.
And I'm sick of watching it die. Yeah. And I'm sick of weak English men allowing it to die. And that's when I decided the only way to change it is through politics. So I've stood several times now to be elected. I failed each time up to now, but I'm getting better and better at it. And hopefully over the next couple of years, I'll get my hands on some levers of power and I'll make some changes. And I'm going to disrupt the status quo.
Well, people will take a leaf out of Mr. Farage's book.
Yep.
Because he failed, 6 times, 7 times?
7 times, yep.
And then all of a sudden, and I believe, this isn't about me, this podcast, of course, but I believe he's going to be the next PM. I really do. There's a
good chance of that. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to change and save the country I love.
Yeah. I noticed on your website, the strapline just grab. I'm just one man trying to save his country.
Yeah,
I thought that was brilliant, simple, profound, and brilliant. Really, and it's So, if you don't mind me asking you, then, what's your current, what you're working on at the moment in terms of politically?
Yep. So at the moment, because there's no elections coming up, I'm concentrating on raising my profile. So I have a podcast called The Mayor and I.
The Mayor and I?
The Mayor and I, based on the King and I.
Yeah, etc.
But I was running for Mayor of Greater Manchester when I started the podcast, so it was a play on words for that. That's doing really well. I'm interviewing people. I'm all over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Last 4 years, I've written 4 books. I'm a third of the way through writing my 5th book, which are all politically based. The book I'm writing at the moment is called Anglophobia.
Anglophobia?
Yeah, Anglophobia.
What a brilliant word.
Yeah, which is the hatred of English people.
Yeah, I get it completely.
So, I'm writing about why the English are hated and what we can do about it.
Yeah, it's unnecessary, isn't it? Some of it. I mean, all right, we've never been angels. We get blamed for it. Just one subject off the top of my head is we get blamed for slavery.
Yep.
But we get no credit for ending it, which we did.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's more complicated. That slavery has always been around.
It still is,
and still is. There's more Black African slaves alive today than ever in the history of the world.
Owned by Black Africans.
Yeah, because the Black African slave trade was started by Black Africans, run by Black Africans, and profited by Black Africans. Yeah. Where the white involvement in it was basically buying and selling them. We didn't capture anybody.
The thing is, we just need the truth, don't we, on every single subject.
Yeah.
I brought my children, of which I have many, more than I first realised, if I'm honest, and some others have come to light in the last few years, shall we say. I'd rather have an ugly truth than a pretty lie. And it's as simple as that, isn't it? Hence the name of this podcast.
Yeah, the blind truth. I mean, we have to, if we're going to have good lives in a good country and improve and progress, we have to live in reality.
Yeah.
We may want things to be different. We may want our history to be different. We may want our traits and our personalities to be different. But do you know what? They are what they are. And if we're going to improve and we're going to achieve, then we have to work in reality.
Well, in terms of multiculturalism, I mean, I work in the film world. I'm a filmmaker for a living. It's what I do. And we have a diverse, completely diverse. We teach actors as well. We train actors. We train stunt people. I mean, we have black people. We have Asian people. We have trans people. Nobody cares. My only concern is that you're punctual and you can act and listen to what we're teaching you. I don't care what colour somebody is. I couldn't even see it anyway. I can't even see my own face in a mirror. mirror when I'm trying to shave. So, but I don't care who they sleep with. I don't care who they pray to or nobody. It doesn't matter, and nor should it matter, as long as everybody tells the truth and just bloody well behaves themselves. You know, say thank you for letting you in instead of sitting in corners planting bombs. That's where it's very simplistic view. I'm not a politician, but to me that seems fundamental to a nice life, surely.
It is, but the one mistake you make there is you've made an assumption that everybody else in the world is like you.
And
thinks like you and has the same dreams and aspirations and aims as you.
Yeah.
We are a very varied species across this globe. We think different countries, different areas, different continents think differently, are basically different.
Cultural differences.
Cultural, historical, traditionally, genetically, we're different. And the mistake we make is thinking everybody would be like us if we can just be nice to them and get them here and they're going to turn out just like us. It's not the case.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree.
But multiculturalism has been an experiment and it's been a huge failure.
Oh, it really has.
And history
History
teaches us that multiculturalism is a failure because it always leads to mass violence. But going back to diversity, who cares about diversity? We used to have we fought for hundreds of years to have jobs based on merit. Because a couple of hundred years ago, you got a job because you knew someone, you were someone's son, you went to the same church, you'd get a backhander. That's how we used to employ people a couple of hundred years ago in this country. And we realised that doesn't get the best person for the job, so we started basing it on merit.
It's a meritocracy that's needed, absolutely.
And then a couple of decades ago, we decided then, certain groups in this country aren't doing as well as others. We must mess with the market and mess with employment to get those levels equal. And now we hire people now based on sexuality, on ethnicity, on colour and all sorts of things. And it's the wrong thing to do.
I agree. Some years ago, when I first started the studios, I was offered quite a substantial amount of money. I'm not going to name the organisation for obvious reasons, but they fund independent films to a lesser or larger degree. And I was offered quite a decent amount of money to make a film with. Okay, let's talk. But then I got sent a list of rules and regulations, and I had to have so many of this and so many of that. And any black people you have can't be shown in this light or this light or this light. And I'm like, hang on a minute, it's just completely bastardising the film that I'd written, that they said they liked. And they took my script and made a whole rake of changes and said your funding is dependent on these changes. Well, I told them to shove it where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, well, that's not called a film, that's called propaganda.
That means I'm working for them and I don't work for anybody but myself, never have. So there's a little bit of ego in that, which I'm not completely unashamed of, because I like to be self-employed and I like to be in control of what I do. And I'll tell you the truth. No matter who you are, and no matter who you think you are, I'll tell you the truth. And if you don't like it, you're looking for the one marked exit. Simple as that. As that's where I come from. But I'll accept anybody who comes in with a touch of humanity at the very least, and just behaves themselves. Don't care. Doesn't matter what colour they are, what they sleep with. None of that matters to me. You know, what they eat or don't eat or who they pray to. I'm a lifelong atheist as well, so I don't have any truck for religion whatsoever. So that's just me. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. But the mistake we made, first of all, was multiculturalism. The second mistake we made was allowing people to move here and not insisting they integrate and then assimilate.
100%.
That was a mistake. We now have pockets in our cities across the country that are basically mini versions of someone else's country. And that cannot survive, and that is not good for the country. I've got no problem with black people, brown people, different countries, different religion. I've not got a problem. But you have to be British. You have to want to be British, assimilate into British culture, so we can become one people. One people of different coloured skins is fine. At least we're one people. But we don't have that in this country. And the easy way to see how we don't have it is through sport. How many people, when England are playing Jamaica, support Jamaica in this country?
Almost every team we play against, I'm a big football fan, every team England plays against, even in our capital city, we're almost outnumbered in the crowd.
Absolutely.
because they relish the thought of us not qualifying for the World Cup, or even Scottish do. You know, you know, I'm a mixture of all kinds of Irish and Scottish, but they love it when we lose. They absolutely love it.
And how can we have millions of those people living in the country who do not support the national teams? And that's just one way of looking at the fact that these people don't see themselves as English and British, and are supporters of other countries rather than the country they live in.
Well, it's not only supporting another country. There's a whole school of people out there that would support anybody that was playing against us, whether it's their country or not.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't get that. I mean, have you ever lived abroad? I don't know. I've lived abroad twice. I lived in Africa, and I lived in Iran for 2 years, just over 2 years. And day one, when I arrived in Tehran, I was told, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't do that, and you don't ever mention Christianity. Or I was told, and it's not. I don't think it's a bad place to be. Iran. I quite enjoyed my time there, to be fair. The people are great. Those in charge, not so much, in my opinion.
Exactly.
No, I don't know about now. I'm going back 30 years, but I was told I was the only white male they'd seen in a long. The local kids where I lived, they used to call me the ghost. Is that not racism? Because I was white, I was a ghost. Yeah. But I thought it was funny. I used to enjoy it and play with the kids and mess around with them. And I think people just get hurt too quickly. You know, this woke thing, which I'm not having either, to be honest, personally.
I don't think they're hurt. I think they use it as an opportunity to virtue signal.
As a lever.
You can't say that. You can't do that. Your words are violence. I don't think they believe any of it. I think it's just a power grab to control people and make them do what they want to do.
I'm with you 100%. So when you go out and do you do speak? You said you have a podcast.
Yeah.
Where do you do that, by the way? Because we have this place for hire. That's me putting the salesman head
in my office.
How do you do it in your own office, right? So when you go out doing speaking, I presume public speaking, rallies or whatever. I don't know if you do protesting. I don't know. Is that the sort of thing you do?
I speak at events. I go on other people's podcasts.
Right.
I did an event in Manchester City Centre Sunday just gone. I'm always, and then if I'm running for election, of course, then I'm doing more of that. But yeah.
So do you run as an independent, or which party are you aligned to, if any?
Last year, both times I stood for election was as an independent.
Right.
4 years ago, when I ran for Mayor of Greater Manchester for the first time, I stood for Reform UK. Reform UK had just started, they were a couple of weeks old.
Right.
And I thought, they've not got anyone for Mayor of Greater Manchester, they're brand new. So
is that when Richard was the leader?
Yeah, and I contacted Richard and I stood for them. But then I didn't stand for them again then, and then I stood as independent.
Right. So in the coming elections, will you be Reform again, or?
I'm thinking about it. I've still not made my mind up yet.
Yeah. I'm a Reform man. Reform UK.
Well, Reform have got the wind behind them at the moment.
Yeah,
they're doing really well.
Yeah.
They're not perfect, but do you know what? No political party is perfect.
Yeah.
They're the best on offer at the moment, who's got a chance of winning and chance of doing something. Yeah. So I think people should be getting behind Reform UK.
Yeah. Me too. I agree.
And the second they let you down, swap to a different party. Just because you vote for a party or join a party doesn't mean you have to stay with them forever. If they go down the wrong path, treat them like a bus. You get on the bus if they're going the way you want them to go. The second they start going somewhere you don't want to go, get off the bus and get on another bus.
Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it? Because it's one of the things that really grates on my nerves when I'm watching GB News, Sky News, whatever, that you'll see somebody, they'll go around pre-election and they're asking to go to Doncaster or Huddersfield, somewhere north, usually. And we're a Labour vote. We've always been this or we've always been that. It's the silliest answer in the world for me.
It's a stupid thing to say that I've really always been this.
Yeah, and my dad was, and his dad was, or the family always have been. What on earth has that got to do with now? Well, it's a completely different world, isn't it?
It's a simpler way of living for simple people who just want simple answers to complicated problems.
Yeah, they quote Harold Wilson or whoever, you know, from the 60s, 70s. You know, it's crazy. It just doesn't apply now. Why don't you sit down and just look at the manifesto?
Yeah.
Even skirt through it. Most of them, with due respect, couldn't even spell it. But just have a look at it, or get someone to read it to you if need be. But understand what it is you're putting the X on the paper for. And they don't, do they?
Some of them don't, but that has been declining now over the last decade or two. The people now who go, I vote Labour because my dad voted Labour, those people still exist, but they're at lower numbers than ever before, because people have had enough of Labour and the Tories. Don't forget, we've just had 14 years of Tory rule, and everything got worse.
It did.
That's the first government in my lifetime where I can look around and go, everything is worse.
It is literally from schooling to healthcare.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm as I mentioned briefly before we came on, obviously I'm a cancer patient.
What?
I have a blood cancer called myeloma, and the NHS have saved my life twice in the last 3 years. I mean, I was on the edge both times, and I was a transplant, I've had 2 surgeries, I've got all kinds going on, and they've saved me, and I have nothing but gratitude for them. But it gave me a real deep insight. I was in isolation in the Christie Hospital for a while after surgery, after my stem cell transplant, and I saw it, and it was bang in the middle of the doctor's strikes while I was in there. So we were only looked at twice a day by someone just popping their head in to see if you're still alive, essentially. But I've nothing but gratitude. But I do believe, and I know I'm not going to name anybody, I know people that are pretty high up in the NHS in the management side of it. It's mismanaged beyond belief. The money that is frittered away is incredible. It's massive, massive amounts of money for people that are doing almost nothing to earn in the 100,000 plus mark per year.
That's the kindest way of saying it.
I'm trying to be as nice, as diplomatic as I can, but feel free to,
The NHS is in a mess.
It is.
The NHS is not fit for purpose. It was designed for a different time. Within years of the NHS starting, the people who created the NHS, within 2 years of the NHS starting, were saying, this isn't working the way we thought it was working.
Right.
Because they started the NHS thinking it's going to cost us money at the beginning because we've got so many sick people. But then after a couple of years, the demand on the NHS will start dramatically going down.
There should be a plateau.
Yes, but it's been an increase every year since the day it started. So the whole model is wrong. It's up to 5 years ago, you couldn't discuss the NHS in a negative light. You would have been criticised, you would have had attack mobs cancelled. But since COVID, everybody now is criticising the NHS. There's 2 issues with the NHS. First of all, it's the incompetence, it's the mismanagement, it's too big. It's it's a government department basically. And I've worked in local government. Everything's incompetent. Nobody really cares that much because it's not my money. I get paid anyway.
Regardless.
I can't change anything. The people who want to change the systems in government, in the NHS, in the councils, people like me when I worked there, you spend years and years and years trying to improve it, and eventually you either burn out and leave, or you say to yourself, I can't, I have to fit in. I have to fit in or I leave. And it wears you down. The people don't join the NHS to be incompetent. They join the NHS because it's a good job. They want to do it.
It's vocational, isn't it?
To a certain extent, but it wears you down, and you end up just working in the system because there's nothing you can do. It's too big. It needs looking at. We're still employing in the NHS, still advertising for DEI managers at £80,000 a year. Still now today, and it's like, and you're telling me you've got no money, and then on top of that, we've got mass immigration. Over the last 15 years, at least 10 million people have moved into the country, and they all want access to the NHS. So not only do we have a failing system, we're making it fail faster and bigger because we keep importing millions of people to access the NHS.
A number of years ago, when my middle son came to live with me, I was trying to get him a school. We lived in Fallowfield, right on top of one of the most successful in terms of of performance schools in the whole of Manchester. It's a fantastic school. And we lived, literally, you could throw a stone at it from my back garden. We lived right on top of it. And I couldn't get him a place in there. And he just come to live with me. We had a bad split from his mother, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed, I went round to see them, and there was cars coming from, taxis, coming from Rochdale, coming from Oldham, coming from all kinds of far-flung places, really, compared, to bring their kids to the school. And I lived on the doorstep. I couldn't get a spot, and I was kicking off. I was really laid into them in so many ways. And I never got him a place.
Yeah, if the school's full, what can anyone do? But those 10, 15 million people who moved into the country over the last 10, 15 years all want access to services. They all want doctor appointments. It took me 4 years to get an NHS dentist. In that time, I lost my tooth. All these services, the criminal justice system, Jimmy, we've got 10,000 foreign prisoners in our jail system. 12% of the prison population are foreigners.
£250 a day per prisoner, roughly, to keep them in prison.
We should just deport them all. There's another 20, 30,000 foreigners who are ex-UK prisoners living in the country. We don't deport anyone.
Well, wouldn't they just come back in on the boats anyway?
Some of them would, but we need to stop that. The fact we don't deport anybody. There was a Jamaican guy the other day in jail, in court, wanting to be deported. Well, they were going to try to deport him, and the judge overruled the deportation because his new girlfriend has children. Not his children, they have children, and one of the children is struggling with her gender identity, and she's the only person this kid speaks to.
Right.
And that's enough for a very dangerous Jamaican criminal not to be deported.
It's just ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous, isn't it?
We have become idiots, governed by fools.
Yeah.
We need to stop blaming the judges and stop blaming our politicians. We need to start looking internally and blaming ourselves for this, because we elect the politicians. We elect the politicians that create the laws that the judges then rule on. Yeah. It all comes down to us.
So let me ask you then, do you believe in the elections? Do you believe they're honest and true?
I believe they're as honest as true as I've ever been.
Right.
There's always been fraud in elections, and there always will be people trying to...
I don't like the postal thing.
The postal system, postal votes are being heavily abused.
They have to be. With Donald Trump as well.
Well,
remember.
They are. We know they are. There's evidence. We've got convictions on people abusing postal votes. They need to stop overnight. The only people who should get a postal vote would be severely disabled people who are bedridden. Yeah. Someone like you're registered disabled.
Yes.
You shouldn't get a postal vote either. Because I don't think you're disabled enough to get a postal vote.
I agree.
I think you should walk or get a taxi,
totally
whatever.
Agree with you, yeah.
So we're making it too easy for people to cheat. And the reason why they're cheating is because, and again, this is immigrant communities who are doing the cheating here. The reason why they're cheating because that's what they did in their homelands.
But only them, though. I mean, there must be some indigenous people that cheat as well, surely.
I'm sure there is, but on the mass scale, it's the Pakistani, Bangladeshi communities on a mass scale. And the reason why they do it is because they did it in their homelands. It's culturally acceptable. Yeah. It's the norm for them. Where we used to live in a high trust society, where you could turn up at any polling booth without ID, give your name, and you could vote. Because we trusted each other. Suddenly now we don't trust people voting anymore now. So we need ID because we don't trust people, and we're becoming a low trust society because of mass immigration, because of the cultural norms we're importing into the country.
Right, and you think slowly but surely we're going to be, for want of a much better term, outnumbered by foreign people in our own country? Is that what you think?
No, because I think we'll change this situation before we ever get to that.
Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think change is coming.
One would hope so, wouldn't it?
It's definitely. I can feel it in the air. It's been changing for a couple of years, but since the election in July, it's sped up, and since Trump's election, it's sped up. And since last week, when Trump got into office, it's sped up again. Yeah, it's increasing all the time.
I'm a fan of Donald Trump, by the way, on Dies of Parade and that.
I think they're trying to do what we think should be done.
There's an honesty about them. There's a very frank truthfulness about them, which
Yeah.
is what appeals to me anyway.
Yeah, but again, do not be fooled because you think they're truthful.
They certainly appear so to me.
They may appear so. We need to be critical and be checking out every politician because
question everything, of course.
Exactly. What we don't want to do is swap the Labour and Tory liars for Reform liars and Trump liars because they're all liars. We need to be better citizens. We need to hold our politicians to account more. We need to check them out more. We need to hold them to account.
Oh, accountability is key in anything public like that. It has to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you recall, and this is just as a little aside, I've asked many people about this, and I saw when I was a young man going into Manchester quite regularly to the centre, what is now the McDonald's Hotel used to be the BT building.
Yep.
A swirly building on London, going up to London Road. There was a huge billboard. I don't know why my mind took a photograph of this, and it was a split in three pieces. This billboard, and it was Neil Kinnock, Margaret Thatcher, and Paddy Ashdown, and underneath it said, "It's my party and I'll lie if I want to." You know, like the song.
Yeah.
And I thought it stuck in my head for some reason. I've asked loads of people, and no one ever recalls it. But it was massive.
Yeah, I mean, we know politicians lie.
They have to do, surely.
You know, we've got written evidence from 2,000 years ago in Rome about people criticising their politicians for being liars.
Right.
Politicians have always been liars because that's how you win over the masses to get their votes and their support.
Yeah.
What's different with this new Labour government at the moment is, and that surprised me, they're still liars, but they've taken it one step further. They don't care now if we know they're lying or not. And I think
they're doing it right to your face,
they don't care. And I think what they've realised is we lie anyway. Everyone presumes we lie. Even when we tell the truth, they think we lie. Right. What's the point of pretending we're not lying? Because they think we're lying anyway. Save some energy, save some time, and just lie and don't care if they know we're lying and it sounds like we're lying because we lie anyway.
I mean, what's this thing about you say anything now against the government and you're a right-wing activist or whatever, extremist, and locking people up for things that they say, things that they put on social media. When you stand on that, I was outraged personally. I thought it was a fucking disgrace, if I'm honest.
Yeah, well, it's first time in my lifetime. If you don't include the Northern Ireland Troubles, then now is the first time in my lifetime where we have political prisoners. Those people are political prisoners. They've been sent to jail because it's politically convenient for the government.
Yeah, did one guy kill himself?
Yes, he committed suicide. Peter Lynch. I think it was he 70 odd, had health issues, put in prison.
32 months in prison?
Yeah, and killed himself. He was sent to jail for non-violence, for shouting at police.
Hurty words
and shouting at the police. But we've got people, you're right, we've got people in jail doing years in jail for tweeting stuff.
Yeah, see, that boils my piss, I'll be honest with you.
And I'm not saying what they tweeted was nice. It may not have been nice. It may have been insulting. It may have been all sorts of things. But regardless of what you've tweeted, jail should never be an option.
I mean, there has to be. I'm with you 100%, but there has to be a line for me. If you want to say what you want to say, if freedom of speech really exists, which I don't believe it ever really truly has.
Yeah.
But okay, if you go on social media, let's say you did a live on Facebook, and you are literally calling for people, let's all get a knife each and go out and slit throats. That to me deserves a jail sentence. I really do. If you mean what you're saying and people do start gathering, that's incitement at the very least, surely.
Yeah, incitement to violence, and that's against the law in this country.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's fair enough. But if you want to go on and say such a body's a twat, or I don't like this because he's a prick, or whatever it is, any expletive you like, you should never ever get locked up for that. You shouldn't even get arrested for that.
But the people who were sent to jail were arrested for the police and the Crown Prosecution Service incitement to violence, incitement to hatred. And once we have those sort of rules and those laws, it's all down to interpretation.
Yeah, so it's fluid, aren't they?
It's not black and white anymore. Murder is you're dead or you're not dead.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah, and first and second degrees if you meant it or...
Yeah. But, but incitement to violence, of course, we don't want people saying, right, everybody, get knives, go stab Mr. Jenkins or Mr. Abdul.
If we all stab one each, then all that's rubbish. Yeah,
but we would have to prove not what they said. we need to prove that there was intent, that it wasn't a joke, that the odds of people listening to it and doing it were significantly high. Because in an argument, if I said to you, I'm going to kill you, well, is that incitement to violence, or was that me angry? So the bar to convict people for incitement to violence needs to be a lot higher than it is.
Yeah, I think you saying that you would is not, but it's you saying I'm going to get someone else to kill you. That could be. I don't know. But again, at the very worst for me, that should be a talking to. You know, like, listen, you can't be doing that. Knock it off. You know, or whatever. Worse to that effect, like the old school way.
Yeah.
But you can't knock anybody up for something that they've said or something that they think even worse.
We've got paedophiles, and some of them don't go to jail.
Yeah.
We've got some rapists who don't go to jail. But you say something the government doesn't like online, and we can send you to jail. And we've got to let out thousands of real criminals to spare up places to put political prisoners in. It's third world. We're turning into a banana republic.
Yeah. I mean, you might get locked up for this. Who knows?
Well, it's crossed my mind. It crosses my wife's mind all the time about, Nick, you could be arrested. And the answer is, I could be arrested. But what am I going to do? I'm going to live in fear.
No.
I'm not prepared to live in fear. I'm not prepared to be a coward.
No, I agree with you. I'm with you.
So
let's
see what happens. Let's see what happens.
It is, but
And the government's afraid of us. Why do you think they're coming down so hard on everybody? They're terrified. They saw the demonstrations on the street after Southport murders, and they thought this government could fall, and that's why they came down hard. We always think that we're scared of the government. We need to start remembering the government is scared of us.
Do you know what I saw? I can't remember who it was now. It was some political figure in London. His name's completely, probably wouldn't name him anyway, and he made a very simple, profound statement, and I'd never even given it a second thought when he said that your government should not know anything about you. They shouldn't know who you are, what you like. They shouldn't know anything about you, but they actually know everything.
And that's extremely dangerous, extremely worrying. I mean, the government will always know certain things about us, but the state's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They know everything.
Yeah, they should know, where you were born, birth certificates, where you went to school, educational certificates. I get all of that, but like Sky TV boxes, they know what flavour of programmes you like, they know what food you like, they know everything, what your hobbies are. Because of the internet, you go on, you do a Google search on anything, and you'll get inundated with adverts because somebody somewhere is selling the information.
Yeah,
I get the relevance. I like commercialism. I like business. I always have done. I've started and sold and run businesses successfully in the past, and I get all of that. But there has to be where's the privacy? There's somebody somewhere in an office in London that knows exactly what you like, what I like, what everybody likes in terms of food, even sexuality, anything, political bent, whatever. And that worries me a great deal.
The reason why they have that information is because we've allowed them to get that information from us. And
they dressed it up in cookies, a nice cute word.
So in a democracy, it's always down to us. So we wanted free access to Facebook. We wanted access to these things, and most of these things are free. The price we've paid for that are those IT companies taking our information and selling it on. And in terms and conditions, it's in there. But no one reads them anyway. And at the moment, we don't think it's a big issue. And the reason why we don't think it's a big issue is because this is new technology. It's going to take us decades and 100 years to understand this technology.
Yeah, cigarettes didn't used to be a big issue until I realised what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So grooming gangs.
Yep.
Where are you with them?
I've spent 2 decades stopping grooming gangs, stopping child sexual exploitation, first with the council and then with my charity. I've had paedophiles arrested and prosecuted. All of them were white men. So this isn't just necessarily a Pakistani Muslim problem. There's white paedophiles in this country, but the grooming gangs is specifically a Pakistani heritage Muslim problem. So that's a different type of crime under the umbrella of paedophilia.
Yeah, why is it predominantly them that are doing it, assuming that you're correct, and I'm sure you are?
Yeah, it's something like 85% of all convictions for the grooming gangs were Pakistani, Southeast Asians, but mostly Pakistani.
So is that a cultural thing?
It's a mixture of different things. I wrote an article on this last month. So the first thing is, let's look at Islam as a religion. So their prophet, Muhammad, was married a 6-year-old girl and had sex with her when she was 9. So a 9-year-old can be seen as viable for sexual intercourse. So there's the first thing.
That doesn't fit where we are, does it?
No,
away.
Exactly. But that's if the prophet did it and the prophet was perfect, then it's okay to do. So that's the first thing. Second thing as well is culturally, if we look at Pakistan, it's a backwards culture compared to the West. It's a very clan-orientated culture, which means they intermarry with cousins and other relatives. So they become very focused on the clan, which means they look at other people outside the clan as the other, as potential enemies.
Right.
Even
Sunnis and Shiites and all of that
stuff.
Well,
even closer to that. So other clans who are just like them, Pakistanis, Muslims, they're perceived by the next clan as the other, the enemy. We don't deal with them because they're a different clan. So you can imagine importing those people here where the other people are white. So they're definitely not like us. They're definitely the enemy. Yeah. White Western women have a terrible reputation around the world for being promiscuous, for being sex objects. So they're looking at white women and white girls going, well, you're all tarts anyway.
So they're fair game.
So you're fair game.
Yeah.
And the community itself does not blame the men for abusing these girls. In those communities, it's the girls' fault for being tarts. And
so do you think it's well known within the community then, but they just don't say anything?
They've known for decades, absolute decades. Right. The men who are arrested and go to jail in those communities come out, go back to the same houses, go back to the same mosque, the same job, the same community, and are welcomed with open arms.
Instead of being vilified as they should be.
If me and you came out of jail for paedophilia and went back to our communities, I can guarantee we would be assaulted on a weekly basis.
I have a friend, ex-friend, that contacted me a year or so ago. I didn't know him since school. We haven't met him since school really, but he got in touch with me, found me on Facebook, wanted to reach out. And I was just asking him, what he's been doing, and he apparently he'd been to prison for 6 years because he found child pornography on his computer. And then more and more came out, and I'm like, what are you contacting me for? I teach special needs children to be filmmakers. Yeah. I don't want that guy anywhere near me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've made that very clear.
Yeah, but in that community, they weren't treated like that.
They should be, shouldn't they?
They should be. But then let's have a look at what the white British community, what they didn't do as well, or did do to encourage this to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We allowed the breakdown of the family. So most of these girls who were abused came from single parent households.
Yeah.
Why? Well, there was no father in the house. Your father is your natural protector in your household.
Yeah.
Other men will think twice about messing with people in that house because there's a man in that house.
I agree.
This might turn violent. It may not, but it might. Why do I take that chance when there's girls around the corner with no natural protectors?
Yeah.
So we allowed our children to be unprotected because of feminism, because of the welfare state. We threw men out of the family home, and to some extent we allowed men to walk out of the family home and negate their personal responsibility because they just said the state will raise my children for me.
And also there's a whole school of thought that there's an incentive for a woman to throw out the man and she will be paid for the privilege.
It's not school of thought, it's actually true. Absolutely. We've made it easier for women to be single mothers. We've made it fashionable and there's no negative consequences to women. They're not looked down upon, they're not criticised.
It's a no-lose, isn't it?
Exactly. When I worked for the council, the first thing single mums used to say to me when they wanted extra benefits or extra services would be, I'm a single mum, you know. And I always wanted to say, well, you should be ashamed of saying that. But I knew I'd lose my job if I did. So
I was a single dad, so I get it. But
I mean, I can understand if you're a widower.
Totally different.
They're totally different. But if your marriage fell apart, then my answer is, well, you shouldn't have allowed your marriage to fall apart, or you should have picked a better partner, or you should have stayed together for your children. Your life becomes second priority the second you have children. Your children should be priority.
100%,
And every study in every university from every country in the Western world shows the children who are most successful come from married households where the biological mother and father stayed together.
I heard very recently that those stats are identical if they're raised just by a dad. That actually the ones raised just by a dad, it's the same as being raised by a couple. But if it's just mum, there's a massive drop in.
That's true, but we need to look at why.
Of course.
So the reason why that single dads do amazing compared to single mums,
discipline,
that's part of it, but it's because the men are only a very small percentage who are single parents, and they're the men who took their personal responsibility and didn't walk away. So they're the best of the men.
That's a fair point. From that stat that I heard. I mean, I had Mike Thompson on from the Falsely Accused Network. He did a podcast a few months ago, and some of the stories are horrendous. There are whole teams of lawyers, groups of lawyers out there that will just say to the woman in the event of divorce or separation happening, just say he threatened to hit you and you'll get everything. And they're being advised to do that whether you did or not.
This has been going on for decades, all my life. I remember as a child, 2 female members of my family, close family, I'm not going to tell you who they are obviously, having a conversation about, one of them had just left her husband and the other family member, and I'm a child at the time, I'm like 7. And I remember this conversation because I was thinking, this could happen to me. Because I'm a boy and I'll turn into a man. So my female family member said to the other female family member, when he turns up at the door, open the door, rip your blouse open and start screaming rape.
Wow.
And when the neighbours come out and phone the police, you tell the police he tried to rape you. He won't be knocking on your door again to see the children. This has been going on for decades and decades. I knew another person of mine, a friend of mine, a couple of years ago said, we were talking about noise nuisance in flats. And she says, I don't have any more noise nuisance for people having parties. I said, what did you do? She went, every time they have a party, I phone up the police and I say, there's a man next door in that flat beating his wife. They turn up within minutes, they knock on the door, the music goes off, and the party stops.
And he gets hiked off in handcuffs.
Or the fact that they phone the police, the party stops because they're usually smoking cannabis in there or whatever. And she goes, you do it 2 or 3 times and they stop having parties.
Wow.
So women absolutely use the threat of being locked up, of being a criminal, of false accusations of rape and assault as weapons to beat men with.
Paternity fraud, all kinds.
And society nearly always believes the women.
It's true. It's true that. Yep. And it's not misogyny, it's just based on facts, isn't it?
No such thing as misogyny. I researched this for one of my books. Misogyny means the hatred of all women. Social scientists have looked at this and can't find any men who hate all women. They can find men who hate particular women,
right?
But of course they do. We all hate particular people, but they can't find men who hate all women because men do not hate women.
So even in an extreme case like Peter Suckler, for example, he had a happy marriage, etc. With Sonia, wherever she was going. So,
misogyny now just means sexism. And the reason why they started using the word misogyny is because the word sexism was being used by men, accusing women of being sexist. And women went, we don't like this. We need to stop using the word sexist. Misogyny will start using that word instead.
So just going back to the bolts for a second, if you're okay.
Yep.
What do you think the answer is?
For the channel boats,
Yeah, the small boats, all the illegal immigrants.
we could stop it in a week. We could stop it within a fortnight, guaranteed.
I think so too, but I'm very interested to know how you think that could happen.
We instruct the Royal Navy and the Border Force, and we get the top people from there in the office, and we go, if people land on these shores, you've got 10 days. If anyone lands on these shores after 10 days, you're all being sacked. The top man's being sacked. We're holding you responsible.
Yeah.
Get your boats in the channel. Tow boats back to France. And if we've got to have a bit of a war with France and some shots have to be fired, so be it. But we drag them back to France.
Right.
If we can't drag them back to France, then we sink their boat in the channel. We take these people on board our boat. We transfer them to a Royal Navy ship. And then when the ship's full, we sail them to the Ascension Islands.
People are going to die though if we do that, aren't they? In the channel.
I don't see why not.
If you sink the boat and there's children on there, for
I'm
example.
not about sinking the boat with people on it. We take the people off the boat onto the ship. We sink their boats, and then we sail the ship when it's full to the Ascension Islands.
We'd need to leave the ECHR for that, wouldn't we?
We'd have to do all sorts. I mean, first of all, we need some politicians with bollocks. So
European Commission on Human Rights wouldn't allow it, would they?
No. So we have to come out of the ECHR. We have to get rid of the human rights legislation that Blair introduced. Yeah. There's many things we have to do, but all can be done with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
All can be done.
And if they really wanted to, they couldn't they?
Absolutely.
So why don't... I mean, what about, for example, cutting it off at the root of you're not getting a hotel, you're not getting any money, you're not getting benefits, you're not getting anything.
Yep.
Surely the want to be here would be diminished somewhat. Not completely, but it would certainly make it less attractive, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and we can do that with a stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
But politicians don't do it for several of it. Well, first of all, they haven't got any bollocks and got a backbone.
Yeah.
Second reason is they don't think it's a vote winner. Because they've always won votes over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years on promoting multiculturalism.
Right.
So they don't think it's a vote winner, and they haven't got the stomach for the fight.
Yeah.
We need a different class of politicians. We need politicians. We don't need politicians. We need statespeople. We
need our own Donald Trump, don't we?
We need statesmen and stateswomen getting into Parliament. Yeah. And the difference between a statesman and a career politician is a career politician only cares about climbing the greasy pole.
You see, I don't like all this stuff in party politics of losing the whip. It shouldn't even exist. It shouldn't even be a thing. If you don't vote with us, then we're going to apply the whip. And you're basically silencing them, or forcing them to say something that they don't believe in, which isn't what their constituents wanted. They
are, but I can understand why we have party discipline. If we didn't have party discipline, governments would be fighting themselves all the time trying to get legislation in.
Yeah.
So the answer is, if you don't do what the party want to do, then leave the party.
Yeah, rather than be silenced. Become an independent and say it anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Why don't they do that?
Because
I would.
Because the difference between them and you is you want to improve things. The things they want is to stay in power. They want the £92,000 a year for being an MP. They want the £200,000 for being a minister. They want the ministerial car. They want the fantastic pension. And all they're worried about is being voted in again in 2, 3, 4 years' time. Yeah. It's all about being voted in again. That's why we don't solve any problems in the UK, because to solve our problems, some of them will take decades and hard work. A politician today is going, why am I going to spend my time trying to fix this problem that won't come to fruition for 2 decades? I won't be in politics then. So I'll get no credit for that. I want something I can get credit for in 2 years from now. I remember when I worked for Manchester Council, a senior councillor said to me, Nick, I'm up for election in 18 months' time. Antisocial behaviour is really bad in my area. What can you do to solve it? And I said, well, in 18 months' time, nothing. Oh, right. Is there anything you can do to make it look like it's being solved? I went, there's loads of things, but it's going to waste my budget and it'll achieve nothing. He went, right. The next day I got called in the office and my big boss says, Nick, spend your budget on making it look like antisocial behaviour is coming down in this guy's area.
Whether it is or not.
Yeah. So I wasted my budget on a PR stunt because
See, that annoys me. It really does.
but that's what we're doing all the time because we are looking at getting politicians elected, so we're wasting our budgets, our money, our time, our resources on sticking plasters instead of solving the issue.
Yeah. Wow. So you basically had 20 years of frustration, haven't you? Being able to see the solutions to things and not being able to implement them. Because with due respect, before we were introduced to you to come on here, I'd never heard of you.
Yeah.
I've heard of Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
But you said that you stood up against him and came third in the election. Why didn't I know about you?
Well, first of all, I didn't have the money to promote myself.
It was not available because of your views, perhaps.
The BBC, ITV, Manchester Evening News, and everybody else wouldn't invite me to the hustings.
Right.
So
because you don't fit the narrative.
Well, the answer they said to me, because you're independent, and independents aren't proper candidates. So,
really?
Yeah. So I didn't get invited to anywhere to speak.
You always see the Monster Raving Looney Party guy, don't you?
Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm a one-man band.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It takes time.
Yeah.
That's why most people hadn't heard of me. But I still beat Reform, the Lib Dems, and the Greens.
Are you making headway then, do you believe?
Oh yeah. More and more people. I mean, I can just tell by the numbers on social media. Right. But again, that doesn't mean they're all in Greater Manchester. They could be around the country mainly. Yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? I'm making headway. I'm getting there. I'm attracting more supporters, and it's a journey. And do you know what? My journey may fail, but
it may not.
But it's about trying. If you only try to do something, if you knew you were going to be successful, it means you'll end up doing nothing of importance. I might spend the next 10 years doing the things I'm doing and may never ever be voted in. But that's okay with me because I'm trying, and me trying might give someone else the initiative for them to try, and they may be better than me and they may be successful, but they may only start because they saw me trying.
So you could still blaze the trail. So
exactly. We need people trying all the time. No, a general doesn't win the war. The soldiers on the ground win the war. So I'm just trying to do my bit. And if people better than me can come along and be more successful and help save this country, then absolutely that's fine by me.
So have you had any backlash for what you do and what you say?
Little bits.
No, like death threats, anything like that?
No. I mean, I got a lot of crap when the Black Lives Matter thing was happening in 2020. Right. I think, that definitely toughened me up. So ever since then, people now, online will say, "Oh, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist," and that's like it's like water off a duck's back. That. Right. But yeah, I get hardly any pushback. And that's because I'm frank, I'm open, I'm honest, and I've got a really good backstory and reputation.
You stand up to scrutiny, don't you?
I do. So how can you criticise me for my opinions on the grooming gangs when I've had paedophiles arrested and prosecuted, and I've saved at least 15 girls from being abused?
Yeah, good on you.
How do you criticise me for my views on grooming gangs? Because I know a lot more than anybody else. I've spent decades working with rough sleepers in Manchester City Centre. So when I'm talking about how we need to get people off the streets and people go, "Oh, that's not very kind the way you want to do," I go, whoa. I've got hundreds of people off the streets. I've got 100 people into jobs when we got them off the streets. I've saved people's lives on the streets. Don't talk to me about how to get people off the streets. So people find it very hard to challenge and criticise what I want to do because I've got decades of experience doing it in a track record.
Have you heard of MASH?
Yes.
I volunteered for them for a while, many years ago. Manchester Action on Street Health, working with sex workers on the streets and stuff like that, giving them condoms and all that stuff. A butty, cup of tea, all that. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, I really did. I was also a black cab driver in the centre of Manchester for 8 years. It's a window to the world. They both were. And so I think we come from a similar spot. I was also a single parent raised on a council estate in South Manchester, by the way.
Whereabouts in South Manchester?
Excuse me. Reddish and Levenshulme.
Right, I was in Longside.
Was you?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Levenshulme. I consider Levenshulme because where I did my growing up.
Yeah.
You know, in
So you'll remember the Arcadia skating rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go there all the time.
Yeah, I rode past there quite recently to see that there's a big giant fruit market from all around the world there. What used to be the skate rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Palace as well.
Oh yeah, there's the cinema. Yeah. I saw all my early films there, like Star Wars, Superman,
Jaws. I did.
Yeah, all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are from a very similar, but I think we're coming from a similar place as well.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but politically, I think we are, because I've not heard anything that I wouldn't agree with.
Yeah, I come from a place of personal responsibility.
Yeah, accountability for everyone.
I want people to take responsibility for their lives, their families, their community and their nation.
Yeah.
I'm sick of people always looking for someone else to solve their problems. I'm sick of people looking at the government to make things better.
Yeah, just blaming the government every time and you should give me this or that.
Exactly. I want us to take more personal responsibility. If we all started doing that, we'd live in a much better country.
I agree with you completely. Another thing that I'm dead against, I don't know where you stand on this personally, I don't like this suing culture where we sue for everything that's gone wrong. Tragically, some years ago, I lost one of my children to cot death. And within weeks, we had people coming around with a clipboard, knocking on the door. We've done an evaluation because we lived in Fallowfield at the time. And we estimate the ambulance should have been with you within 3 minutes, but it actually took 19.
Yeah.
And we've taken advice, and we think that your son would have survived if it had been there on time. So they gave me the handed me this form to sue them. And I said, well, what's it for? Well, you'll get compensation. Okay, sounds good, but for what? Well, I said, so how come the ambulance was late? Because the NHS is stretched. So then if I go and take £500,000 out, we're going to lose another ambulance and someone else's child's going to die. Yeah. So I can have a Porsche. Not interested. The guy wouldn't believe me. I said, I'm not interested. I ended up having to accidentally let my dog out to get him to leave my driveway. He wouldn't take no for an answer. No. You'll get £500,000, blah, blah. I said, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I mean, this is the culture we've imported from America.
Can't stand it.
I mean, there is times where we need to punish people through through suing people. If you walk into a supermarket and they've been told for months all those shelves are unsafe, and then while you're there they all fall on you, well, you should be suing that supermarket because they knew it was unsafe.
An independent business who are flouting the law for profit. Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, but let's look at the NHS. Let's say the NHS knew that doctor was a drunk and alcoholic, and that doctor operates on you and kills you, or damages one of your members of the family. Then I think that you should be able to sue the NHS for that, because not the fact he was just drunk, the fact the NHS knew he was drunk and still allowed him to operate on people. So there's times where we need that, but
force them to pay into the system, not to give you financial gain for it.
But the suing culture is killing all of us. It's making everything more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's everything we buy now, the companies are having to insure themselves in case someone sues them on that.
They factor it into the prices.
Exactly. I agree. And, we had those spates in the 80s and 90s of people suing the councils for tripping up on pavements. And that became a multi-billion pounds business. And now we've got... Did you get food poisoning on holiday? Let's sue the tour operator. All those things. I mean, they used to call them ambulance chasers. Those things need to go.
Yeah. They do. That's where I've always come from. I could have quite easily taken £500,000, get myself a nice Porsche, polish it every Sunday, knowing I've got this because my son died, and maybe someone else's son's died now because there's even less ambulance. Yeah. It's only one example, but that to me that's just. I can't stand it. I'll go on Facebook or any social media, and you'll see these adverts popping up. Did you have to wait too long for an operation? Did it this? Is it that? It's all because there's lack of funding or mismanaged funding, perhaps more relevantly. So, by taking money out for no good reason, in my opinion, you're making it worse for everyone.
Our country with less solicitors would be a better country.
Oh, I agree. They're absolute leeches, most of them. That's my opinion. And it gets me with solicitors in particular, not all, of course, but most, in my opinion. You know, they reach for the law book to tell you what you should and shouldn't do in your case if you've got a case going on. No. Well, you can do that yourself. Why do we need a lawyer to do that?
Solicitors are going to be wiped out through AI.
Oh yeah, God,
that's one of the jobs that's looking at going, because once you've programmed AI to know all the law, you just ask AI questions and AI will come out with the answer and AI will tell you what you need to say in court and what to reference. So solicitors will be out if AI continues to develop like it is. Solicitors will be one of the ones that suffer.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of AI. I like it to a degree. But it worries me in the industry that I'm in, for example, writing films and making films and editing films and using stunt people. Yeah. It could replace all of that.
A lot of things you said then it will replace. AI now is writing TV series in America and writing film scripts.
I know. SAG-AFTRA have been campaigning against it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in these situations before. And it always leaves us in a better position.
You roll with it, or you get left behind.
We had these same discussions with the printing press. We had these same discussions with the Industrial Revolution. We keep having these discussions about mechanisation, robots, and now AI are going to take all the jobs. I don't know. They take some jobs, but they create other jobs and a new industries emerge out of it. So I'm not sure where AI is going to take us. I just know it's unstoppable.
Yeah,
we need to embrace it, and we need to make sure it works for us.
I was trying not to, but one of the things that we do here is classes for actors, and we have to write scripts for them to learn from monologues and stuff like that. And every now and again I got caught out and I was having to write 10, 12 scripts for different people. And I just did it on ChatGPT in under a minute. And it just spat it out, and it was like I was in shock. And I thought, why am I struggling? Yeah. And I think we're going to do that with all walks of life. Yeah. Which is kind of sad, but like you say, I mean, in the past I remember my father saying, bloody PCs in the house, what's that all about? Pen and paper is all I need. You know, and it's just changed, hasn't it?
No, absolutely.
You go with it or you get left behind. It's that simple.
Yeah. Change is always coming.
Yeah. One of my passions is watching old TV shows. I do it at home. I have a Fire Stick and I watch episodes of The Sweeney or Rising Damp and Porridge. I love all of these things. Yeah. And some of my kids say to me, why are you always watching them? And I questioned it myself. And it was looking at the streets. It's not necessarily the programme itself. And looking at how the streets used to look. It's a completely different country now. It really, and that hurts. It's awful. We're in managed decline. Yeah. This country isn't a country anymore now. This country now at best is an airport lounge where people from all over the world come for a little time because it's convenient, then they leave. Take something out and go.
Yeah, or it's an economic zone where this country now is all about money. So people come here to work, people invest here to earn money. But you know what? It's not an economic zone. It's my home. It's my country. Yeah. And nobody in government ever asks me what I want. It's always, we know best. We're increasing the GDP of the country. We're making the country richer. Well, that sounds good. But over the last decade or two, the country's getting richer, but individuals are getting poorer.
Yeah, we're all becoming slaves, aren't we?
The country's not a shop. The country's my home. Yeah. And we should treat our home with some respect. And we need to ask the people who live in that home what they want. Yeah. And the governments never do.
No. On the odd occasion we do get a say, i.e. leaving the EU.
That was a one-off. They'll never do that again.
Well, the thing is, they didn't want to accept it, did they?
No, and they'll never ask us again.
No.
Because we gave the wrong answer, and they spent years trying to get us back in and fighting against us. And then trying to
convince us we don't know what we're talking about, we don't know what we voted for, and all them sort of things. I was getting angrier and angrier, and I actually blogged about it that, hang on a minute, you're telling me that the first 50 years of my life has been a lie. There's no such thing as democracy. Because unless we leave now, as we voted for, then the whole of my life has been a lie. you know, and it was that fundamental to me anyway. And eventually, I don't believe we've fully left, if I'm honest.
We haven't.
No, it's a leaving in name only, isn't it?
Brexit at the moment has been a failure because we've not 100% left.
Yeah.
And there's been hardly any benefits.
Yeah.
But the plus side is the benefits of Brexit are still sat on the shelf. And the government will come along sooner or later and go, there's those benefits I was talking about. Let's take them off the shelf and then we'll start booming.
Well, they deliberately mothballed the benefits, I believe, to make it look like a failure.
Yes.
So because they can say, let's go back in.
Well, both Labour and Tory would like us in, especially Labour.
God, yeah.
So they didn't want to change too much because they're hoping we'll end up going back in. We won't. We'll never, ever rejoin the EU.
Well, we didn't join in the first place. We joined the EEC, which was a completely different animal, wasn't it? You know, was it 72, 73, something like that? Yeah. And it was just economic, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden they wanted armies and flags and what? And they just ignore you. If you don't vote the way they want, you just get ignored.
That was always the game, was to start an economic zone and turn into the United States of Europe. Yeah. And people in Europe still want a United States of Europe. But European Union at the moment is collapsing. Schengen is over. Germans have stopped that. Other countries have stopped that. And if a crash comes, then I can see the end of the EU.
I don't want to be European and never did. I'm British. That's it. And I have been called a little Englander and all these, bullshit statements that the people make. No, I'm British. I've got German friends, Italian friends, you name it. I've been all over Europe. I've lived all over the world at times. Wonderful, but I am a British person.
We just need to be more honest. Yeah, we just need to be honest and say we're better than the Europeans. That's why I don't want to be part of the EU. That's why I don't want the United States of Europe. If they want to do it, fine. But I don't want to be part of that because I know this island is better than Europe. This island is the most amazing place in the world.
I agree.
Over the last couple of 100 years, we created the modern world.
Of course we did.
We created some of the first world countries. We created the world power, America. We created Canada out of nothing, New Zealand, Australia.
These are all our cousins, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. We created modern science. We created most of the medicines, most of the vaccines. We created the modern world, the Industrial Revolution, the internet. We've created almost everything. The British people, and especially the English people, are a gift from God to this planet, and we shouldn't be ashamed in saying that.
Yeah, well, as an atheist, I can't say that, but I know what you mean. I believe we're it's a wonderful country. I'm proud to be British, and wherever I go in the world, I'm proud to be British, even if these people don't like us very much. I don't care. Because it's just how it is, for me anyway. But just stop oil. Let me ask you about that. No. How do you feel about these people?
The eco-lunatics.
The ones that throw in orange dust at the snooker centre or the World Snooker Championships or whatever, They're
basically domestic terrorists. That's what they are. And we're going to see worse from them. There's worse to come. So the people on the ground, the white middle-class retired head teachers and vicars and the university students, they've been brainwashed. There's always been people in all our societies who are always preaching the end is nigh.
Yeah, that's always been this sandwich board guy in the 70s.
Exactly.
Walking up and down. Yeah.
For 1,000 years, the return of Christ is going to lead to the rising of the dead and Armageddon, and we've always had these people in every religion, in every community, about the end of the world. And surprisingly, it never comes to pass. And these people are exactly the same. They've bought into this. And the reason why I know they're full of it is because, let's say they're right. Let's say us using fossil fuels and the carbon we're releasing is killing the planet. Let's say that's completely true.
Yeah.
If the planet's going to die in 10 years' time and we need to stop using fossil fuels, we need to find, and we know at the moment, green energy isn't capable of filling the gap.
It's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, but we know it can't do it. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is nuclear. Nuclear releases no carbon.
Yeah.
But you ask these people, they go, oh no, but what are we doing with the nuclear waste? Whoa. Don't worry about that yet, because the planet's going to end in 10 years. Let's save the planet by using nuclear and releasing no more carbon into the atmosphere. And then after that, we can spend our time developing more green energy, and then we can start dealing with the pollution of the nuclear. But isn't the first thing, let's save the planet from ending? But they go, no, it has to be everything all at once. That's why I know the full of it.
Yeah, well, somebody very famous only a week ago said drill, and I'm with him on that. But
me too.
For me, the whole global warming thing is a crock of shite.
It is.
It really, because there's carbon dating proof that the Earth was 6 to 8 degrees hotter 65 million years ago than it is now.
Yeah.
And the Earth is doing what it's always done.
Natural cycles.
Exactly that. And we really truly believe as a race, as a human race, that we have any effect on that that's significant.
Yeah.
We're absolutely conceited beyond belief, in my opinion. Because the Earth's going to do what by the way, the Earth's going to be fine. It's us that will perish, but the Earth will still be here.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah. And that's always been my opinion. I've been shouted down about that so many times.
Yeah. But be careful of Just Stop Oil and the eco-lunatics, because they're extremists themselves, but there's violent extremists within those organisations. And what those violent extremists are going to do at some point is go, right, we've tried peaceful protest and no one is listening to us and nothing's being changed.
Yeah.
And the world now is going to end in 5 years. We have to turn to violence now. We're going to have to start blowing things up. We're going to start killing people, because it's better to kill 100 people and save 8 billion.
They'll truly believe they're doing the right thing, won't they? That's the
nutcases will turn violent at some point. Before 9/11, the American agencies and the British MI5, so just before 9/11, their number one concern was eco-terrorists. Because they were saying 20 years ago, this is the threat that's coming up, they're going to turn violent.
Right.
Islam and radical Islam change everyone's agenda and opinions, and it's been left on the back burner. But 20, 30 years ago, our terrorist organisations were worried about eco-nutcases, and that's not gone away. We've just had something else replace it for the moment.
Yeah, it's always surprised me when I watch these roadblocks. Because of losing my vision, I don't drive anymore, obviously. But I've seen, I can watch things that are backlit on pads and stuff like that, and I've seen these people that are sitting in the roads, and I wouldn't endorse it, by the way, of course, but I'm amazed that somebody hasn't just ploughed through them and thought, fuck you, if you want to glue yourself to the road, crack on, but I'm going where I need to go. I'm really shocked that nobody has.
It's because we're a very tolerant nation, but I think they're waiting for that to happen, and that's going to be the excuse they use to then turn violent themselves. I think they're waiting for that.
Yeah, it's. I don't understand why they don't use something like the water cannon. That would clear them off the road, wouldn't it?
Well, Boris Johnson bought water cannons for London and then got told you can't use them, illegal, so we have to sell them to another country.
ECHR again, probably.
Yeah.
We've got to get away from that.
We do.
Really have. We'll never change a thing. The boats, the protesters, and I believe in the right to protest. But not when literally ambulances couldn't get to appointments and people were dying, literally.
Your right to protest should not trump my right to go about my lawful business.
Correct.
You should be able to protest on the streets, make all the noise you want, do whatever, but you should not impede my life.
Causing obstruction deliberately.
Yeah,
as well.
I agree.
Yeah. So again, I think we're pretty close where we're coming from with that, aren't we? Not exactly the same. So, yeah, it's been enlightening, I must admit. Just very quickly, any words on what's now? What you're up to right now? Did you say you wrote some books as well?
I wrote 4 books.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, the main things is Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. All you need to just look for Nick Buckley MBE, all one word. That's my handle on all those things.
Right.
I've got books on Amazon that I've self-published. Right. My book that I released last year is called England's My England, where I talk about why England's dying and what you as an individual can do to help save this country.
You've got a website, haven't you, Nick?
No. It was a mayor's web. When I was running for mayor, I had
Right.
one, but that's defunct now.
Right.
So I'm all over social media.
Just Nick Buckley MBE.
Nick Buckley MBE, you'll find me there. Follow
Yeah.
it and come join the conversation, especially on YouTube.
Yeah.
Now YouTube's doing really well.
Is it?
Doing about 4 videos a day.
A day?
A day.
Bloody hell.
Long form discussions I'm having with people. Some of the conversations are like this, and an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Really getting into the nitty gritty of some of our problems, talking about solutions, talking about, why is it difficult to change these things? The nuanced discussions, not just sound bites of, knife crimes bad,
Sure.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. But what are we going to do about it? And what are the complications?
Yeah.
And so it's about finding real solutions to real problems.
Well, one of the things I'm planning at some point this year, possibly in the summer, and probably this very room, is, I'll say this carefully, a mass debate.
Yep.
And I want 12 to 16 people from different walks of life,
Yep.
different faiths, non-faiths, whatever, politically different, to have a non-violent, obviously, debate around the table. Some drinks, some food, whatever, and just get it all out. And would you be interested in being one of them?
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to have you as one of the guests, I really would. Mike Thompson from the Falsely Accused Network is coming on, I believe. And a few other people, So when I've got 16 with enough diversity around the table, if you like, maybe some BLM people, maybe it's whatever, it doesn't matter to me. As long as it's kept, cordial, and everyone just gets their say.
16's a lot of people for debate.
Oh, it really is, but I think it's needed because of how many fractions there are. I think it's needed to be that. I wanted 12 originally, but I don't think it's going to cover it. But I think it might get out of hand, but we'll see.
Yeah. But
We might
give it a
need
go
some
and see what
security.
people say.
Yeah.
More conversation is always the answer.
Yeah, I had a chap on the other day, Michael O'Brien, who's he's been out a while. He served a prison sentence for a murder he didn't do. 11 years and 43 days it took him to clear his name. And they paid him jointly between the government and the Crown Prosecution Service just over £1 million in compensation.
Yeah.
And when his money arrived, it was £37,500 short.
Yeah.
And when he asked what it was for, they said it was for his accommodation while he was in prison.
Yeah, for his room and board.
Yeah, it's like, what, are you fucking kidding me? Really? And he's taking them to court for it. As we speak.
That's always been the case.
But if he was guilty, they wouldn't have charged him for that.
No, it's always been the case that they've deducted that money from settlements. But
really?
Yeah, always been the case. But that's not the issue. The issue is I shouldn't have been locked up in the first place.
Yeah.
And to then tell me you're taking this money off me, it's like a slap in the face.
It is. It really is. It's a proper salt in the wound moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was, by the way, this is proven, so I've no problem saying this, he was actually deliberately set up by the police in South Wales. A police officer went out of his way to make sure he got convicted with the flimsiest of evidence. And it still took him just over 11 years to get out. I mean, that's... One of his children died while he was in there. One of his parents did. And it's what on earth is going on?
In those cases, what I would want to see now is I want to see who can we hold responsible for that.
Yeah.
Why did this man have a miscarriage of justice against him?
Yeah, 3 of them.
What was the process? Who lied? What was that information? Why was that information? I want that review because we need to get to a stage in our country where people who work for the state, so police officers, civil servants, that we hold them accountable. And if they've lied or were incompetent, we at least sack them, and in some cases we jail them.
Well, he made a point about that, and he actually knows the officer who was put on gardening leave not long after. And he made a point about the actual standards of joining the police now are so low.
Yeah.
Compared to what they used to be. No disrespect to the police, I'm a fan of the police. We all need them. But they used to be told, you can have a haircut such a length.
Yep.
Moustache had to be such a length, and now they've got like full sleeve tattoos and all kinds of going on, and they're taking part in woke bloody carnivals and pink ribbons on them and all kinds of stuff. I mean, what on earth is going on?
Because we've lowered the recruitment standards. We started doing it in the 70s so
Yeah.
more women would join. So we started reducing the physical fitness standards and height standards so women could join. And that just meant fat, unfit men could join as well.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some, I see some, I mean, you don't ever see them on the streets these days, and very rarely in cars, actually. But when you do come across one, I'm looking at them sometimes thinking, you could run 2 yards to catch a criminal.
No.
Some guy who spends his life in the gym selling drugs, he'd be over that wall and away before you could even get out of the car. You know, I mean, big, giant, fat guys, they couldn't run 10 yards.
Our police service has been failing for decades.
Yeah.
The only good thing you can say about our police service is it's better than not having one.
Some of them are brilliant. I know some bobbies.
I train police officers. I spent a decade, working in police stations, training police officers, working with them. There's some fantastic ones, but we keep making the same mistakes. We have far too many female police officers. A female police officer can only arrest a man who's willing to be arrested.
Yeah, correct.
So
I agree.
we've got far too many. We've lowered the bar again in the 80s and 90s so we could get more ethnic minorities joining the police.
It makes it not fit for purpose, generally, sure.
Exactly. And now we only want to recruit police officers now who've been to university. So most of them are woke and pathetic.
Right.
And we're all in danger because our police force isn't what it used to be. But it's not just the police, it's every institution in the country is like this. They're all failing. None of them are doing what they should be doing. None of them are run on competency. It's
I know for a fact the universities are upside down with it. They're a mess. They're not fit for purpose, even slightly.
We can fix the universities within 2 years.
It's all about wokeism.
All it takes to fix the universities is the government says to universities, here's a list of courses we're not going to give government grants or government loans for.
Right.
Women's studies, these studies, woke studies, all the crap.
Yeah.
We're not paying anyone to do those studies. You can still have those courses, but people will have to pay for them themselves. And then you say to universities, we expect you to have free speech, we expect you to meet all these standards, and if you don't, that's fine, but you're going to get no government money.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
We fund universities. The government has all the levers to pull to get these organised to do what they should be doing, but they haven't got the backbone to pull the levers.
Yeah, well, I know somebody who's going to remain nameless who went to university fairly recently, and he went for I think 3-year course, and he met in person his tutor 3 times. That's it. 3 times. I mean, what on earth? How can you possibly teach somebody anything like that? Everything's done online. They may as well not be at university. Do it from home.
Well, Jordan Peterson has just set up an online university a couple of years ago.
Really?
You can do degrees now online, and it costs is it $3,000 a year?
Right. I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson, actually. Yeah.
So it's a lot cheaper because you're right. You don't need to be in the university, and the universities are failing anyway. They're failing. The universities have turned into a business. 20 years ago, the universities had to produce the best graduates, and that was their aim, producing graduates that people wanted. Universities then, because it's $9,000 a student now, universities now treat students as the customer, and it's all about the customer experience.
Yeah,
so you can leave.
The accommodation's dreadful.
You can leave university now unemployable, but if you had a good time in those 3 years and you're 50 grand in debt, the university thinks it did a good job. But if you're unemployable, then the university failed.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing courses for things that they'll never ever go to, or there won't be any opportunities to go to.
Yeah,
even if they wanted to. So it's just, my opinion of university. I've never been into a believer in long-term adult education. I say leave school at 16 and get your ass into the workplace and learn on the job.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for experience in anything, I believe. University
should be for like 15-20% of people. If you want to be a doctor, if you want something that requires a degree, anything else, get into the workplace, because that experience is better than a degree that's worth nothing.
Absolutely.
And you're earning, you're not putting yourself in debt.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. And it's, again, it seems like we're on the same page, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Well, university is a false dream Blair sold to our young people.
Yeah.
He sold this dream of get a degree, go in debt, and you're going to earn so much money, have a great life. And it's not the case. We've got people stacking shelves in Asda who got degrees.
It's drink, drug and sex fest. It's basically what it is, in my opinion. And that isn't just because of my friend that's recently gone through it. When I was a black cab driver in town, a lot of my business was students, and you see them you hear them in the back of the taxi every single night of the week. Some of them, and they're just out looking for someone to sleep with, looking for someone to take drugs with, and they've not been to a lecture for weeks, and no one's saying where have you been. So it's and
that's because universities don't expel anybody. Because why would you expel your customer?
No, you wouldn't, would you?
Because every student's worth £9,000 a year. You bend over backwards to ensure that student stays. Where 30 years ago, if you didn't turn up for lecture, they'd kick you out.
Oh yeah, you'd be gone. Yeah.
Where now you're just a customer.
So it's just yet another leg of the country that isn't fit for purpose, isn't working, and isn't serving us in any way.
Yeah.
Other than to make us more and more woke.
And we're funding them. Our taxes are funding them.
So, final subject. Where do you follow football?
No.
You don't.
I'm a little Man U fan. Every now and again, or Blue. Every now and again, a friend of mine has season tickets, corporate tickets at Old Trafford. Every now and again, once he invites me.
Right.
But that's all I know. I don't follow it.
I did say football, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
I had to get that one in. I've knackered my microphone up there, haven't I? There you go.
But I've been at the Etihad Stadium loads of times.
Have you?
When I worked for the council and I was stopping kids getting involved in anti-social behaviour and crime, I did a project there where I had all access pass to the stadium.
Wow.
And because they were having kids climbing into the stadium, running on the pitch and causing trouble. So I was called in to catch those kids, tell them off and speak to the parents. So about 10 games I was walking around with all access pass. I could go anywhere I wanted.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. Well, one of my claims to fame with that is when they were building the stadium for the 2002 Commonwealth Games, that's when I was a black cab driver. And I drove a group of delegates across what is now the pitch in a black cab. I bet many people can't say they've driven a black cab across the pitch at Man City. I'll take that. It's about as near as it gets for me. But I'm a City fan, obviously. I was concerned yesterday that the council are talking about helping Man United pay for a new stadium. The government was saying it apparently yesterday.
It's not the council. It's government money.
It filters down, doesn't it, one way or the other? But I don't see why my tax pounds should be going to help Man United when they're paying rubbish footballers £300,000 a week. Don't get it. But
well, it's more than just. I don't think we should be spending money. I completely agree. But it's not about spending money on the stadium. It's about turning that area
it's the infrastructure,
into an amazing area with other things there. I mean, don't forget the main beneficiary will be Manchester United Football Club.
That's what I'm saying.
So the reason why it's being looked at is because it would be an amazing legacy for Andy Burnham.
Yeah, we've done it. Man City have done it, but we've done it with our own money, the Sheikh's money.
And that's how it should be done. It should be if you want to regenerate that area. I think the government and the councils should have some part in it. You know, you're going to need some roads. You're going to need the extension of the tram. Maybe I understand those things.
Or maybe a PFI or something along those lines. But fair enough.
Everything else should be private money.
Of course it should. But City gets slagged off for that. And you never hear that. In the campus of the Etihad campus now, there's colleges there for the kids that don't quite make it as a footballer, but they've got to educate themselves at the same time. City don't get any credit for that. We just get slagged off for having oil money. You know, but again, it's
so you should, for selling your souls. For selling your souls. For you wanted success, so you sold yourself to Arabia.
How? It's private investment, and they paid for the tram lines to go in, and the tram service in that area certainly contributed towards it. I believe it was £1 billion they put in. So what's wrong with that? Yes, we're not the same team as we were at Main Road. That's for sure. Because at Main Road we couldn't win an egg cup.
Yeah.
76 League Cup, Dennis Stewart overhead. I get all that, but I wouldn't go back.
No, because you've had success.
Yeah, but I think every team should do it. And all the ones that are complaining are the ones that can't get an investor of that level.
The teams have complained when they've had foreign owners themselves because it's not a club anymore now, it's a business.
Man City, football.
Yeah.
Yeah, football is a business.
So it's a business now.
Yeah.
And it all relies on the success of the team, and people are quite willing to buy that success to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But I think in this country, I would imagine we have far too many football teams in such a small country.
We've got 92 professional clubs.
Yeah, and I don't think they're all viable over the near term. I think it'll get to a stage where some start going under because of the debt they're in. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think more will happen.
The very first one was Bury and it's gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It is what it is.
It is, but I'm not really a big football supporter, so I don't give that much thought.
I think it's one area that we've disagreed on, actually, because the team we've sold our soul. I get it, but I don't like it. I like admitting it. But anyway, listen, we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yep.
And can't tell you how grateful I am for you to come along and air your views, and I'm 99% with you. And
I enjoyed it.
If I see any more mayoral elections, you're definitely going to get my vote.
No, thank you very much.
And I'm going to shout you on here and every other podcast I can. And hopefully we could do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.